USCHO.com.
Welcome to USCHO Edge for Friday, February 16th, 2024. This podcast is sponsored by the NCAA Men's Division I Frozen Four, April 11th and 13th at XL Energy Center in St. Paul, Minnesota. Visit ncaa.com/mfrozen4 to get your tickets today. I'm Ed Trefzger alongside Jim Connelly and Dan Rubin. Gentlemen, another great week of hockey in front of us, and we had a lot of games to pick from, and these seem to be the most intriguing. Our first three are going to be in the eastern half of the U.S., and we're going to start with a couple from Hockey East. First on the list is Boston College traveling a bit west to take on UMass. BC on the road is minus 166. The home underdog, the Minutemen, are plus 130, and over-under on this game is 6.
I almost want to defer to Rubin on this one because he loves the home underdogs, right? Boston College has played very good hockey of late. Take the Beanpot loss to Boston University out. They're playing incredible hockey, but I will tell you, from everything I'm reading, social media and hearing around the league, there's a pretty fired up fan base out in Amherst. I'm expecting this to be a sold out game at Mullins Center. They're talking about, rushing the ice if they win. I mean, there's some great, crazy social media lines. I love Dan shaking his head right now. This is great. But I see this still as BC's game. I like the over under at 6. I think that's a good number. I think it probably goes over. I would not touch the under here. I feel like an over is not a bad bet because you have to figure that you're going to get to 6 the way these two teams play. UMass has been a better defensive team this year than they ever have. And I'm almost including that national championship season. I feel like they're playing really good defense right now. All that said, I still think that BC probably scores at least 3. UMass probably scores at least 2. So you're right at 5. BC probably gets a fourth one. I see 6 or more. So 6 feels like a push, but I don't see a 5 or a 4 or a 3 in this one. So over there, I like BC in the over here.
Yeah, I love home underdogs, but I think that this isn't going to be one of them. I think it has to be a specific situation, and there's no shame in BC losing to BU in the Beanpot. They had to play them 3 times in 10 days, and that's a very, very talented hockey team. There's no shame, and if you're going to lose a game, I think we said to this a couple weeks ago, or said it last week, was if you're going to lose a game, that's the game to lose. Like if you're BC, that outside of the emotional component of the Beanpot, that's the one to lose. The regular season game, non-conference on neutral ice, it doesn't hurt you as bad as if you lost the regular season game at home. So the conference game rather. So I think this BC team is loaded. And in the last couple of weeks, I've said, there's value in betting against them if you believe in UNH. There's value in goal where they struggle. Look, UMass, their fans want to talk about, we'll rush the ice. They're pretty fine. When are UMass fans not fired up that people don't think they're giving their team respect? I feel like that's been a trend over the last couple of years. And I realize saying that is going to get me probably a whole bunch of nasty mentions on X or whatever it is. But you know what? I think UMass is in a juicy spot. They're playing with house money, but this BC team is loaded. I do think I would avoid kind of betting this game as a result because I'm not confident in UMass pulling out the home underdog, getting the value there. But I would say you're right on the over under. If it's 6, I actually kind of like betting the over when it's at 6, because if you don't get there and you wind up at 6, you at least get your money back. So I think that there is more likelihood. I wouldn't hit the under here. I don't like the under on 6. I would feel worse if this were 6.5 and betting the over. I have no problem taking the over on 6.
I don't know that we're going to see BC at minus 166 or better until we get to the Hockey East tournament, though. So that, if you're looking, I'm not going to say that BC is value, but if you're looking for a little bit more value, BC bet here. If you believe in them, and I do right here, then they're probably a good bet.
I agree.
Any momentum for UMass? They're 5-2 in their last 7, most of those on the road.
I think so. I think there is momentum for UMass, and I think UMass has done a really good job of getting itself into position for the national tournament, which with the hosting and the whole conversation that goes along with it, I think they're in a good position. I just don't see them beating Boston College. And again, saying that in what I've said the last couple of weeks, based on the UNH game and the Lowell game, that usually means one, UMass is probably going to win the game because I'm now kissing BC with my purse. But two, it's just one of those things that is, UMass is good enough that you're not going to play the nobody believes in us card here. Like, it's just not, you can't play that card here. Yes, we believe UMass can win this game. You can't play that card.
And the only thing about that, Ed, too, is when, and I'm not trying to disrespect any Hockey East opponent. It's a pretty solid league, but you're talking about, wins over Merrimack 2, UConn 2. The fifth win in that comes over Northeastern, and that was a game that Northeastern had, went 0-4 on a 5-minute major in the third period. Should have been able to find a way to maybe come back and tie that game. They weren't able to, and Jerry Keefe, talking to him today, he actually pointed to that game as kind of a turnaround to their season. Not scoring there, they changed their power play up a lot since then. I have to go back. Northeastern technically shouldn't be a quality win, so I guess the last quality win, and I guess you have to look at your schedule too. Who are you playing against? Their last quality win is probably Providence back on November 16th. And I'm not trying to take much away from this UMass team, but Michigan win that was kind of quality at the time. Northeastern, a couple of wins against them, a tie against BU, that's definitely quality. But there just hasn't been enough, and it's all going to get tested right here. You got the BC series this weekend. You got the Maine series for UMass to end the season. That's where everything really comes down to for this UMass team. Is that's when they're going to play their hardest opponents, their toughest hockey, and they're going to be tested here.
Another Hockey East matchup is a couple of longtime rivals. Maine at New Hampshire. Maine maybe showing that they're not invincible. UNH has had a very good season. The Black Bears are minus 160. UNH at home is plus 124. Over under on this one is 5.5.
Yeah, I'm not sure if I can consider Maine not invincible yet. They look pretty darn good. I know that they lost a tough one against Providence last week, and talking to Ben Barr today, he was not happy with that. They got a good 2-1 win against Providence. Before that, the win over UMass was a 1-0 game. Sweep of Lowell. Before that they had a weird game against Northeastern where they got a major in the third and gave up 3 power play goals. I like the way Maine's actually playing. And I'm a little concerned about UNH. I'm not going to lie about that. This is a team that started out really strong, a win over Boston University really early in the season to open things, a loss against Quinnipiac, then a win against Quinnipiac, then a win against Northeastern. You kind of felt like this team was rolling. They end up sweeping Northeastern a couple of weeks later. We know that was a banged up Northeastern team. Then I look at where they've gone since then, New Hampshire, and I don't see a lot of quality on their schedule. They haven't done anything big in that time. A sweep of Princeton, a win over UConn on the road, not bad. A win at Vermont, a split at Vermont, a win against Merrimack, and then they got trucked by BC and then lost a tough one that I know Mike Souza was really not happy with last week against Merrimack. I just look at this one as this is Maine's to lose. They should be the heavy favorite. I think they should be heavier favorites. If they were at home, this would be a minus 225, maybe minus 235, maybe even minus 250. But because they're on the road, this is a rivalry series. That matters, I think. And I think the bookmakers and the AI folks, whoever is programming these AIs, they're understanding these rivalries involve a little bit more in terms of emotion rather than the actual execution. And that will show. And I think that's showing in the line. I think this could have been a much heavier line favoring Maine. But because of the fact that you have a rivalry here, you're talking about Maine only minus 160. Might be the best you can get them on the road this season. When you look at the rest of their schedule, they'll have some tough games, but Vermont is not going to provide that. And UMass at home, I think they're probably going to be even more than minus 160. So I think this is a good value bet if you want to take Maine here. Could this turn the other way? Of course, that's why you play the games in these rivalries. And I guarantee a full Whittemore Center tomorrow night will be a great atmosphere.
See, that's the big thing that I come back to when we're talking about UNH. It's a rivalry game. It's at home. It's sold out, and they're the underdogs. So if we're looking at a pair of home underdogs, the difference for me is that given that Maine lost that game to Providence, and I don't think that's an unfair indicator of more Providence than anything else, but Providence still had some juice left in the tank. The loss to Northeastern, I didn't love. The loss by Maine at UConn, I didn't love. What I believe about UNH is that they are better than the last two games would have indicated. The last two games just really hurt. And so when we're going into Friday, they need to win. Right? They need a quality win. They need something on the table. There's a sense of urgency. Home underdog. I kind of like UNH here. Now, I actually love the placement of the over-under here too, where it's, 5.5 is a good number for these teams. Like they could hit the under. It's just a number that's so low that you don't want to take it. But to me, Maine and UNH is a 5.5. They could hit this under, and it would make sense. I might actually, if you really do think Maine's going to win this, there'd be, to get more value on Maine, this might be a puck line bet, which I know we hate the puck line, but I think if you're looking at a 1.5 puck line possibility, and Maine's the underdog in a 1.5 puck line with the under, could see it being a 3-1 game.
I don't mind that scenario, and I see it more like 5-3 though. So I've been kind of thinking this is the one where you kind of hammer the over. I know that UNH has not offensively been strong of late, and that's a big factor to consider here. But Maine has, Maine has had some tough nights, but even in a loss last week, 7 goals, they win 4-2, 1-1 before that. Before that, you go to Northeastern, they lost 6-3. They had a 7-2 win against Lowell, a 5-3 against Lowell, a 5-3 against UConn, a 4-4 against Colgate. There's some low-scoring games mixed in there, a 2-0, a 3-1. I just see this Maine team on the average night right now. If opponents taken into consideration, the average night they're scoring more. They're totaling with their opponent more than 5.5. So I have a really hard time thinking about this one as a 2-1, 3-1 game. I see this more as a 5-2 games. The emotions get in there too, and pucks just fly in. I think this is the 3rd straight year I'll be calling a UNH Maine game late in the season. And every time there has been, especially the Friday game, there's been some crazy puck scenarios. I think the first year it was 3-0 before we even got into the broadcast booth. That's how quick the goals went in. Then even when UNH tried to rally, there was a 1-on-5 shorthanded goal. Only one guy in a 5-on-3 had a stick left on the ice for Maine, and he scored a goal. Like, that's the type of weird things you see in some of these UNH Maine games. So I like the fact that this game probably tilts a little bit toward the over.
One more Eastern game is a rare Atlantic hockey matchup with a betting line, and that is Air Force at RIT. They both joined that league together, and in their early days would play each other 4 times a year and developed a bit of a rivalry. Half of the games they've played have been decided by a goal or a goal in an empty netter. So it's been close over those years. Visiting Air Force is plus 190. Home RIT is minus 250, and the over-under on this one is 6.
It wasn't that long ago that we were talking about Air Force as a better team. And I know they've had a couple of stumbles of late, but still, to put them plus 190, that feels really high to me. And not just to say that I have this belief that they're going to win this series, but when you really look at things, they're coming off a win against Sacred Heart. Yeah, they had 4 losses before that, so I get it. But they were on a 6 out of 7 bender right before that. Road wins against Bentley, road sweep against Bentley, a road sweep against Army. And I just feel like this Air Force team is better to warrant better odds. Am I saying that they're going to win? No. But am I saying that there's a lot of value on Air Force? Yes. That's where I guess I see this game going. Not to say that RIT is not a great home team. They're a fantastic home team. But there's just something I like about Air Force here.
I need Air Force to lose so that Bentley can get a quarterfinal series at home.
Okay, Homer.
No, I agree. Air Force is probably one of the best teams on the road, record-wise, I think, in the country. I mean, they're 500 on the road, and you take away the Holy Cross series, they're pretty good on the road. Like, they're just one of those teams. As it Frank Serratori likes to say, we're not called Bus Force, we're called Air Force. We don't mind travel. And they do a really good job of getting ready to play on the road when they're away from the routine of having to play on campus, of having to have a game and having drill and having everything that goes with it. And they get to focus on academics and hockey away from campus. They become a better team because it's a little more stress-free. I think going into RIT is a good scenario for them, coming off of the Sacred Heart game, coming off of at least turning it around and getting the Sacred Heart game. And you're right. I don't love the odds on them that they're so for RIT rather, that the odds are so skewed to RIT. Now, all of that said, I think the AI and everything generates the fact that RIT one is, borderline 13 points clear of the drop from 4th to 5th. They're up in first, and like last year, not running away, but are in a very good position. And they're one of the teams in Atlantic hockey that if you were to input numbers on, have been around the block for the rest of the entire year. So, you're not going to, from an AI standpoint, there's more data points to generate from, just because RIT has existed in the national conscious a lot more as a ranked team and showing up in some of these things in the pairwise, et cetera. So I see the numbers kind of getting a little blocked off. I don't know that we're going to get odds like this on a matchup that we feel, from having seen both teams, be a little bit more even. So I like the value that's on Air Force, and also because I need them to lose on a personal level. So that means the curse of Rubin will have to play into this somehow.
How about the over-under on this one at 6?
Oh, I actually love the over. I love the over. I've seen Air Force, and that team can fly when you give them the opportunity. If they're on slick ice, speed, they've got speed and athleticism. They can fly. And I've seen RIT, and RIT also is a team that knows how to put the puck in the back of the net. So this could be one of those old school Atlantic hockey games that you get to 7 or you get to 8, and you get there almost in the first 2 periods. I love the over here.
I almost don't get this over under. This is the biggest over push I've probably seen in a long time. I get it. RIT, I guess, only scored 5 total in their last game against Mercyhurst. Okay, fine. And Air Force only scored 2 goals a game last weekend at Sacred Heart. But before that, you're talking about, between allowing and scoring goals, you're talking about these two programs are probably averaging over the last month and a half about 7.5 to 8.5 combined goals a game. And now you're going to set it at 6. This should have been 7. And I know a goal doesn't seem to matter to a lot of people, but it does. It really, really does. This should have been 7.5. I would pump. I haven't said this in a few weeks. You have to pump the over here.
Well, we're going to take a look at 2 Western games, one in the Big Ten and one in the NCHC when we return. This podcast is sponsored by the NCAA Men's Division I Frozen Four, April 11th and 13th at XL Energy Center in St. Paul, Minnesota.
Where are my hockey fans at? Present. Welcome to Fandom 101. It's NCAA Ice Hockey Championship time, when the hottest teams in the country face off under one roof. Be there to see your squad hoist the ultimate trophy overhead, the NCAA Men's Frozen Four. April 11th and 13th in St. Paul, Minnesota. Attendance is encouraged. Passion is mandatory. Buy your seats today at ncaa.com/mfrozenpool. Class dismissed.
Welcome back to USCHO Edge. We're going to turn to the Big Ten. Wisconsin at Ohio State. The Badgers are minus 220. Ohio State, the Buckeyes are the home underdog at plus 170, and an over-under of 5.5 on this one.
Oof. This is one of the tougher ones for me. You just want to hammer Wisconsin here, right? Like they've done everything right. For the most part, they've been playing great hockey. Of late, they've been playing better hockey. But should Ohio State be a plus 170 at home? Dan, help me out with this one. You love the home underdog. So this one does not feel right to me. I felt like this is the one that should have been closer to the minus 160 plus 124, not minus 220 plus 170.
No. I don't love a lot of this. And I can understand that, odds in terms of what we've been looking at, in terms of what we've tried to find, can skew a bit when you're looking at, Ohio State and Wisconsin, the fact that Wisconsin has been so good this year, the fact that Ohio State has struggled this year. But I just, it's skewed so much that to me, something feels wrong and something feels amiss. And there have been times over the last few years where I've looked at the numbers and I've seen a home underdog and I've been like, I take it just because they're at home and the value is there. And, and this is going to be one of them, largely because I think when I look at Ohio State and I look at some of the results, yes, they have played bad results. And the last series against Michigan, they got outscored 8-3. Totally understand that. Totally understand why you'd want to look at the Penn State. They lost 2 1-goal games. Why they've been the way that they've been. Minnesota, they gave up 11 goals. I can see why the number is where it is. I just don't like it. Like Wisconsin is, I just don't like it. Wisconsin did sweep Notre Dame, but if you go back, dating back to that Lindenwood tie, Wisconsin has been off. They went to overtime against Michigan. I know it's Michigan. They lost a game. They lost an overtime game to Minnesota. I know that those are good teams, but Wisconsin is going through a bit of a down stretch, and I don't like where the odds are for them in this at all.
Okay, I'm not going to say that Wisconsin's down. I will say that for one thing. But I guess it's just not the right odds for me to get it. Maybe that's the better way to put it. Wisconsin won these 2 games when they played earlier in Madison, 3-0, 6-1. Maybe things have been tough. We're talking 7 straight losses for Ohio State, but you always feel like somebody's going to turn around. I'm not telling anybody bet on this one. This is one that this is my biggest stay away game. And I'll tell you, the over under of 5.5 is my biggest stay away over under of the weekend. I wouldn't touch that. I feel like this game is going to be somewhere right between 4 and 7, and you're taking a lot of risk. It's probably going to be 5 or 6 is the reality. So tons of risk. Not my favorite. Don't see this game going heavily over. Like I don't see an 8 or a 9 here. It could, and we saw a 7 already between these two teams. But I just like more confidence in both of my bets, and I don't get neither way could I go with this bet and generate any confidence.
The last one we have today is North Dakota at Colorado College. Last time they played, it was 2 games in Grand Forks, and Colorado College came away with 2 3-2 overtime wins. With North Dakota on the road, they are minus 238, and the Tigers are plus 180 at home. Over under on this one is 5.5.
My memory the last time they played was a plus 325 for Colorado College. So obviously they've taken them down a little, but still don't believe in the fact that Colorado College can match up pretty well with North Dakota. Now, since that series was played, I think it's very important to kind of turn the page. Since that series was played, North Dakota has played some pretty darn good hockey. They had overtime loss to Omaha. They had a tie with St. Cloud State. Other than that, everything's a win. So there's good things happening for North Dakota. They're playing maybe their best hockey of the year, although I'm not sure that they ever played really bad hockey. That 3-2 double over, those back-to-back double overtime, that would be kind of funny to say, back-to-back 3-2 overtime losses for North Dakota to Colorado College at home, I think shocked the system. And it didn't break that streak of regulation, non-regulation losses, which Brad Schlossman has done a great job of making sure that he chronicles. But this North Dakota team is pretty good. Numbers wise, this one doesn't match up for me either. Great matchup. I just can't take CC here, even at home. Dan, I guarantee you're going to tell me I'm wrong. And that plus 180 is a fantastic value. I loved it when I said this was the best bet many weeks ago, plus 325, and it hit.
Look, I like Colorado College, and I almost called Colorado there for a second. So, whoops. I like Colorado College, and I like them at home. I think the altitude is always an equalizer. I think the arena, when it's packed and the lower bowl effect where you have the seats looking down on the arena like that, you walk in and the seats kind of in the rink is almost, what's the word I'm looking for? Recessed into the building, into the ground. I think it generates a lot of noise. I think the place, I think there is a home ice advantage there. I don't love the odds the way that I did, like I said, with the plus 300, plus 320 for Colorado College way back when. I am more in tune with what maybe North Dakota is doing now. And North Dakota now is the number one team out of the West. I mean, whatever you want to throw BC, BU, Maine, whoever it is out of the East, North Dakota is the team you're throwing out of the West right now. And I wouldn't bet against them. I'd maybe stay away if you don't think they're going to win, but I wouldn't bet against them and take the money line on an opponent from now pretty much throughout. I don't know if they're going to lose many games.
Yeah, I don't disagree with that right there. The only thing I will point out about Colorado College is if you're going to lick your lips as the Tigers, 2 home wins for them as they sit number 17 in the pairwise could elevate them above the bubble. And you can't underestimate what a team realizes. And Chris Mayotte has been there many times with many teams trying to get them into the picture. So he will have his team prepared that this could be the weekend that maybe puts them over the Mendoza line and gets them into a position that they could win a national championship. You got to get in to do that. And right now, this is kind of the weekend that they have to look at as, could this be the biggest push we get into the field?
One last thing just to point out about North Dakota in that situation is the fact that they have played before. And I think that's also one of the bigger problems is that when you look at a team that has only 2 road losses for North Dakota this year, I think one of them was to Denver, and it was the overtime game. And I'm sorry if I'm repeating what you had said earlier, but to me, this is a North Dakota team. To me, the biggest part is, do they play well on the road as well as they play at home? And like I said maybe one of the best teams on the road in general is Air Force. They play extremely well on the road. You can't differentiate with a North Dakota team whether they're better at home or better on the road. And that's dangerous. If you're looking at a team and you say, hey, I think they're a better road team because they play better on the road than they do at home sometimes, that's one thing. And I do think that when you look at a team that's 500 at home, 500 on the road, I think they're a better road team. They are a road team. North Dakota doesn't lose. They don't lose at home. They don't lose on the road. It doesn't happen often. It does not make betting confident. And that second loss, by the way, that happened on the road was to Boston University in November. So this is a team that plays well away from its building, just as good as it does at home. It's not a home team. It's not a road team. It's a good team.
I'll leave you with one sort of an anomaly here. On Wednesday, the Mike Richter Award was announced. The 10 semifinalists were announced. 4 of them are in the 5 games we have this weekend. BC's Jacob Fowler, RIT's Tommy Scarfoni, Wisconsin's Kyle McClellan, and CC's Cademan Barrico.
An impressive list. That's all I can say about that. That's just the start of the list. All 10. I thought all 10. I'm a voter on the Richter Award, and all 10 finalists. When I looked at it, I said, I don't know if my ballot lined up entirely, but it was pretty close. I think I had 8 of the 10, and I got to tell you that it's so impressive. The goalies that didn't make this list. That's how good the goaltending can be in this country at a time.
I saw
at a time by the time at a time when goal scoring is at the highest it's been in probably 10 years.
The funny thing is I read something, I'm trying to remember where it was, might have been The Athletic, might have been somewhere along the line, but they said the goalies in general, the like era of the legendary individual goalie may be ending was the topic of the article. Like, you're not going to get your game-changing Dominic Hasek, your game-changing guys like that, Patrick Waugh, and even Tim Thomas in the Stanley Cup playoffs. And it's because goalies in general have gotten consistently very good across the board, even though goal scoring is up. And I think even at the college level, when we look at the Richter Award, and we see the guys who we're going to see this week in these games across the board, you could take Tommy Scarfoni from RIT and put him on another team, and he'd be just as good with similar numbers to what he has maybe now. And those teams would be very good. And you could take a guy from Jacob Fowler from Boston College, move him to RIT, and you have the same type of success. Like, these guys are across the board with the specialized coaches they have, the standardized pads. They all play differently, but they're all very good.
You take a 920, 925, 930 save percentage goalie, and that changes the whole way you can play the game. You can be more offensive with your defensemen. You can be a little more run and gun, knowing that you've got somebody back there who's worth a half a goal or a goal per game. It's
absolutely
amazing. Well, with that, we'll wrap it up. This podcast is sponsored by the NCAA Men's Division I Frozen Four, April 11th and 13th at XL Energy Center in St. Paul, Minnesota. Visit ncaa.com/mfrozen4 to get your seats. For Jim Connelly, for Dan Rubin, I'm Ed Trefzger, and this has been USCHO Edge.